Even now I can get beaten on the river sometimes by the rivers and the fish, and you know, we have days you come back and you haven't caught up, you haven't had a fish all day, and you haven't even got one take or one bite, even in the day. It happens, you know. But strangely enough, it doesn't actually mean I've had a bad day, because often I can have really good days even though I actually didn't catch a fish. You know, it depends. I guess that's a mental thing.
Norman est un Anglais qui habite près de Manali, dans l'Himachal Pradesh, au nord de l'Inde. C'est mon ami Pascal, installé avec sa famille dans la vallée de Coulent, qui a organisé ce rendez-vous, connaissant ma passion pour la pêche. De Paris à Delhi, l'aventure commençait avec 10 heures d'avion. Puis il fallait traverser la mégapole de 11 millions d'habitants. Et enfin, prendre un bus pour une montée de 20 heures vers les contreforts himalayens. Lorsqu'on parle de pêche dans les montagnes, nul autre nom ne revient autant aux lèvres que celui de l'anglais aux yeux d'azur et à la peau burinée.
Everybody knows Norman now. He's a great angler. The first time I saw him was at Kirtan. Norman did not discourage me from spinning. He just showed me how much more productive he can be with fly fishing.
En bon porte-étendard de la culture anglo-saxonne, Norman est un fly fisherman, un pêcheur à la mouche.
Most of the people in India actually don't know about fly fishing. This is the problem, you understand. And once they start to see you actually performing, then they become very interested, you know. Because especially if you, as I have done on many occasions, you've outfished the guys with the spinners, you understand. You've been on a pool which has been invaded by some guys spinning, and you're catching fish and they're not, you know. And then they start to think, hey, what's happening? Everybody spins here, and after a while the fish, it's like anything, you know, they get used to it. No, very few people fly fish, you know, so you have a big advantage actually on the time other people. And then people become interested in it, you know.
It will take us 2 days to get there, and then hopefully we'll fish for 5 days. That's what I'd like to do. Because, like I say, I mean, I don't really know the area that well. I mean, what I know of it, what I've fished has been exceptionally good so far. I tell you, when we were there last time, we fished pretty much around this area. But when we went down, also to one place, there was a small stream. There's a small stream running off, you know, and it's a good sized stream, flat from the river and things like that. No reason that the fish are not running up, and this stream is full of fish. It has to be, you know. But there was no access. It was completely overgrown. Perhaps there's access from further back, if you see what I mean. Like, it's quite common that just maybe there it's blocked because there's nobody goes, but if you go back, maybe there's a path that goes down to it. And this gonna have good fish, and, you know, something like this, so, you know, you go and explore. Wild animals, we have leopards, we have wild boar, we have black bears, and, you know.
So the second day, when the day we pass through Roru and then we'll fill up the car and all, and we keep on going up, this will take us like 7 hours to Dodra.
The problem is that the accommodation really is up and the river is down. From one place to the other, you have to go like this down and then across the bridge and then like this up. So it's actually 22 kilometers to go.
Together, the distance is short.
Yeah, you can see it's not far, it's only over there.
But we're not there.
Avec Norman en capitaine, nous avons aussi monté une expédition afin d'aller explorer des vallées inconnues, des rivières que l'anglais avait vues ou dont il avait entendu parler, mais pas encore pêchées.
Now we're heading to Tikri. Tikri, there, so we get the bridge to head off towards the pass.
Un putain de ciel bleu derrière ça là, la paramoute présente. Fishing trout in the Himalayas, the best fishing spot in the Himalayas.
Ces expéditions prenaient dans le contexte himalayen une autre dimension. Les distances là-bas sont à l'échelle du massif énormes.
You're actually going pretty fast this time, isn't it?
But come on, it's not like we're not swimming around in mud this time, you know, like last time, you know, almost waist deep, man. It was incredible.
It was absolutely.
Les routes sillonnent sans fin, à flanc de montagne, et il faut les contourner. Les heures se transforment en jours. Brinque-ballé, le pêcheur ici aussi doit être patient. La seule occupation, s'émerveiller du paysage et de la beauté des rivières en contrebas.
Coming here, when I actually looked at these rivers, now I actually knew that they had trout in them, but I actually didn't think that these were, you know, I said, you can't fly fish this.
It's just the fast water in the beginning is quite intimidating, you know.
Very, very strong, incredibly strong currents, and they just don't look like you can actually play fish.
When the valley is narrower, then you tend to get the big pool, because when the water's really fast, you know, when the water's flooding, this scours all of these things out after, you know, so when the water goes down, then you have these big pools. Usually you will find big rocks in the river, they create the pool. Sometimes some pools get on big floods, some pools get completely wiped out, you know what I mean? You have this beautiful pool and then, but it's full of rocks, but then somewhere else another pool has been cut out, and, you know, and after a couple of years, fish establish themselves in them, and, you know. But for many years I didn't fish, you know, and then I kind of started, you know, I started again, and
I discovered that you could, you know, it was fly fishable, that you have to change your technique.
You make a lot of short casts, you know, because a lot of the time you can't have too much line on the river. You understand? Often you only have usually to the middle of the river anyway, maximum, you know, because there you have this current that's going whoosh, you know, and that's why I say, people, you think you have to talk about drag problems? You try this now. But in the end, it's fun and I enjoy it, you know. It's a bit more technical than fishing like, sort of like normal dry fly in England, you know. It was fun, I enjoyed it when I was fishing dry fly, but you catch much more fish, it's much more exciting, you know.
I really enjoy it, you know, I enjoy the whole, I enjoy the rivers, I enjoy the beauty of the place. And I also like the unexpected factor of you don't know what you're going to catch, you know, because you never see them. It's very rare that you actually see fish in rivers, unless you go to the smaller streams where it's really clear, but mostly we're fishing big, deep blue holes. And you have no idea what you're going to catch, you know. You might catch something that's, you know, is 5 centimeters long, or you might catch something that is, you know, I mean, huge monster, because they exist in these rivers.
Dodra village over here that we're looking at, and as you can see this large building there, the prominent building there, this is the temple of the village, okay?
It looks old, this village.
Yeah, because it's quite old. There's almost no new houses, no new buildings. There is only one small concrete building there. This is almost untouched, this village. This area has been completely cut off for many, many years, you know, until 3 years ago this road was built, you know, so in fact it's been cut off completely.
Coming here, it's actually you are going back almost 50 or 60 years back. This is unheard of, you know. It's like completely in the back of beyond.
Avec quelques heures de sommeil, notre troupe se prépare. Arose, Zouravar et Amit, des disciples de Norman, pêcheurs à la mouche indiens, sont venus spécialement de Delhi pour participer à l'aventure.
There was 12 hours clear, 6 hours clear, 3 hours clear.
Today it's good, it's clear all day, but it's not looking so good. Tomorrow it's going to go shit again, and it's going to go really bad.
Long walk.
Avec un minimum de 6 heures de marche par jour, il faut que la quantité de nourriture soit à la hauteur de l'effort.
This is the valley.
Okay, everybody ready?
Au petit matin, il faut juste trouver son rythme, car la balade à plus de 2500 mètres d'altitude ne fait que commencer. Aujourd'hui, le but est de rejoindre une rivière repérée l'année dernière, mais personne ne sait si elle sera praticable, et encore moins s'il y aura du poisson dedans.
Last year, but also we were also put off by a lot of bad weather, and it included a big flood on the main river. It seems to have really affected the fish stocks there, but this river is not showing any signs of any floods actually. There's lots of insect life in the river. This is a stonefly, that's a real stonefly. They get much bigger than that, trust me. I just turned one stone over and there was this stonefly. Big stonefly nymph underneath. You see, the food in this river is the river's full of food for the fish. They grow big and fat.
I tried wet flies, I tried some dry flies. The fish don't rise very readily. There are certain pools which you will find fish rise. I think they seem, one takes the lead and the rest follow. Smaller fish, big fish, it's too much effort for them to take things from the surface.
A new area for me, so it's kind of exciting actually because, like I say, we don't know anything about it. We just heard its reputation that it can hold big fish, so we come to see that.
So actually, mostly we're fishing with nymphs, and usually quite deep, because when you fish these pools, you can stand and have a look, and you can't see any fish. So the reason you can't see the fish, not because they're not there, but because they're so deep down, and that is actually where they stay. They stay mostly quite deep.
A little bit greenish, just like the ones you just saw. They have a slightly green tint to them, these nymphs. This is like a small size. 1.5 kilo. Just seen him. He's a monster. I'll just try another fly. And also, I'm not sure if he saw anybody. He really followed the fly. He came very close to it, and I thought he was going to take it, but I could actually see that his mouth didn't open. He was that close, but sometimes you just give him a bit of a rest, and they come back again. He's hungry.
Fishing here is tough fishing. I mean, it takes people a while to actually adapt to this to catch fish, basically. You understand? Unless there are some guys that come here, top anglers. I mean, they're really seriously good guys who have fished other fast streams before, so they know about this, fast water fishing and things like that. And they're also very successful. But I will say that most of them ultimately actually revert to the technique that we use, very little line on the water, if you can avoid it, you understand. I mean, lots of people actually develop, and fishing deep, heavy.
Fish jumping.
Yeah, no, he didn't jump, he just come up like that, See, often not a good sign because it means that they're not actually feeding when they do that. They're sort of playing around. When you see them when they jump also, people get really excited and then go to try and catch them and say, you're not catching them, he's not feeding.
I always talk about bouncing on the bottom of the river. You understand? Your nymph needs to be bouncing on the bottom of the river, and then the retrieval usually does some trick. But as you start to lift, you get the action. I find it quite challenging at first. I found it almost impossible to catch fish to start with, actually. I find it very difficult. But after a bit of practice, and a bit of, experimentation and things like that, you discover that, yes, these rivers are very fishable and very enjoyable to fish, actually. And you're often just in such beautiful places, I mean, we're in the Western Himalaya. This is actually, it's the highest mountain chain in the world. And you're very aware of it, actually, because we know where we are. We're away from the roads, we're away from we're in the river, you understand? So we're away from all of the confusion and everything else that goes on in India and, in incredibly beautiful places.
The terrain is quite tough, I'm constantly walking on uneven ground and rocks and stuff like that.
They think it's an old man's sport. Fishing is an old man's sport. Now, from where I go and what I do and what my other friends do, I think it's not an old man's sport. Forget about it. Because you will die.
Fishing is very demanding here, physically demanding.
Sometimes you don't have access by the river, so you have to climb up and then go back down again. A friend of mine described it as rock climbing, trekking and fishing all in one. Trust me, after a day's fishing there, you will sleep quite well. You will sleep quite well.
People come here because all these walls have been built up, yeah? Maybe it can go just up there, but it's also possible we can just cross this. I mean, I don't have a problem to cross that.
I've been asked, would I take a couple of old 75-year-old ladies fishing on the river? I said, I can't. I said, I can't. I said, otherwise we'll just have to stand in one place. And that's not how we fish here. Fishing here is on the move. You're constantly moving.
Big guy? Oh, nice fish. Bring him here. You're a beautiful female fish.
Beauty.
She's gorgeous. Hold your eyes. That's an absolute beauty. Yeah, you hold it. Take it. In the light, just hold it in the light. Take a picture. This one take. Right in your rod. No, sure. No, because look, we've been fishing around for, I told you what a good place this was, and no fish. No, I just seen a beautiful fish. I'm very happy.
I wasn't fishing at all. I wasn't fishing with my mind at that time in my life. When I left England, my plan was to travel, and I was living in Amsterdam for some time, 6 months or something like that. My plan was always to go to India, overland, which I did in 1974. When I crossed, I remember we crossed the border in Amritsar. First of all, because it was Punjab, it was incredibly green, first of all, really green, incredibly green, which kind of was a bit of a surprise. I don't know why I was surprised. But, and then arriving in Delhi and going to stay in like the old part of the city, actually, it was suddenly like a flashback to Singapore, which is a place I really loved when I was a child, actually, and it was the smells. All the smells came back, There's suddenly like, walking around old Delhi and all the smells, different smells as you walk along here, that smell. My first 24 hours in India actually was like that. It was like, it sort of just reminded me of something that I was very familiar with and something that I really liked actually. Traveling and let's go to India. I mean, a lot of people were doing it at that time, and it was a really good experience actually.
We'll go spin and glide. You got no place to hide, 'cause you don't need one.
You're young and you're exploring and you understand that you go back to those years. It's hard to remember how you thought in all those years ago. I think actually what changed everything for me was actually discovering the mountains, actually the Himalaya. As it was, I mean, they are incredibly beautiful mountains, and even 35 years ago, we're talking about now. I mean, it was very, very different and incredibly. It was like some sort of paradise. I could still actually remember the bus trip that I took, the first bus trip I took. They didn't have buses that went directly from Delhi in those days. You took a bus, you had to go from Chandigarh. And from Chandigarh, I took this bus which left about 5 o'clock in the morning and arrived at about 6 o'clock in the night time. So it took like 13 hours, and the bus stopped for everywhere, including a goat. I remember my first time I saw a goat coming on the bus. Somebody brought their goat on the bus, and anybody put their hand out, the bus would stop. But I just remember how incredibly beautiful it was, especially when you enter the Coulent Valley and you suddenly, because you come through this, what they call the Mandi Gorge, it's quite it's quite tight and narrow, and then suddenly the valley opens up, Pêcheur, it suddenly opens up, and it was very, very beautiful. The nature itself is, just nature itself is actually, if you want to get on that kind of level, that's the thing that was important to me. I don't know why, but it affects me really a lot, you understand. If I'm away from it for too long, then I don't like it. I desperately miss it when I'm not here. I'm going back into England to work in the pub for a couple of months, and it's kind of nice, see family and see friends and things like that again. I mean, I will desperately miss my, my sort of nature fix, if you want to call it like that, because I really, it's become such an important part of my life, actually. I'm not really as much of a city person, as much as I do like the city, because I like things like theatre, I like to go in art galleries and stuff like that. I love the parts of the city. But actually to live in them, I actually find it's sort of like one part of me gets very repressed, actually. I feel that being in nature is so important to me, actually. It's become such an important part of my life, When I fish, I'm doing all sorts of other things. When I'm walking between, spots and river, I'm looking at the flowers, I'm looking at mushrooms, I am constantly watching, just observing what's going on. One of the most important things about our fishing, actually, observation. Look, when you arrive in a pool, they change. As the flow of the water changes throughout the year, the flow in the pool will also change. So you have to observe every time you arrive in the pool. You just spend just a little time, just observe. I'm sitting very, long time, spotting pool, like a pool where I haven't caught fish in, I never caught fish in this pool, I can't understand, and then sat, like literally for quite some time, and just watched the pool, and seen the fish. You understand? Big guys as well, I'm not talking little, I'm talking about big torpedoes. You must look to see what I'm going to do if I hook a big fish, because you've got every chance that you will, you understand? And if you're not prepared, you're almost guaranteed you will. You're going to be stuck with the fish on the end of your line, and you have nowhere that you can actually get the fish out. I've always loved nature, and this, this kind of fishing is just like you're right in it. I mean, you're involved with it. You've got rivers that if you fall in, you've got a good chance you're not going to come out and stuff like that. You're always on you're careful where you put your feet. Watch out for the snakes and all this kind of stuff. It's fascinating more than just the fishing itself. You understand? Of course, I love the fishing. But it's just I love my environment that my fishing takes me to. And the rivers it's like, it gives you the reason to go, I'm actually not a person, I can't actually just walk from here to there and I'm going on a walk. If I do it, it's kind of reluctantly. I do it in England to try and stop myself getting too fat, But here it's like, the fishing is the reason that you're going and you're going to be walking the whole day. And, you're going to end up in the end of the day quite tired, but a nice, pleasant kind of tired feeling.
Yes, the message is Mr. Amit Mittal is out of sight, out of mind. Doesn't like to walk too much.
You prefer sliding.
We went to this pool by the old fishery in Tirthan, and Norman was fly fishing and I was spinning. And I could not catch a single fish in about 4 hours.
I caught 5 fish, they didn't catch any.
It just confused my brains completely. And I said, okay, man, this is it. I threw my rod and I said, Norman, I'm joining you. I want to start learning how to fly fish. And that's what really converted me from spinning to fly fishing.
They all start as spinner fishing. And we try and convert them over time. A lot of new people coming in and they want to learn fly fishing. When they see us fishing on the river, we should show them the fly. Then gradually they start.
People like Christopher Mitra in Tirthan, people like me or people like Zorawar, we are always talking about fly fishing, of how valuable it is to the environment, the biosphere and whatever.
Indians are just developing a very large affluent class of people actually, and therefore that is that's the kind of people that fish in the West actually mostly, and so actually this would happen. It definitely would happen here without question. As people would give up their spinning once they discover that fly fishing is just more interesting, just much more absorbing.
Listen. Sounds like a boat.
Sounds like a wild dog.
Ek mota hai. Motu. Motu hai na. But a good day, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Normal. I've been called normal by many of the locals. They couldn't get the normal, they are normal.
Do you have any jungle, kind of a river part,
I told you that place was inaccessible, but there'd been a big landslide, you see, and it smashed all the jungle down that was inaccessible before. You couldn't get through, man. I tried. I went there and I thought, I'm going to go in this river, I'm going to go.
Too much of a bush or?
Bushes and this rose, rose? Wild rose, and fucking this and that, I tried to go inside, I don't know, and it's like, I gave it up. I thought the only way to go is by the river, and how far I can go. I can see the first pool, just up, you see that pool there? It looked like a good fish inside, at least one.
I'm an ignorant.
No.
Me, I'll try the fish. I'll catch the fish with an elbow, an arrow,
No, I bought you a special
Completely naked, just with a leaf.
Adam.
I was fishing as a kid, fishing since I can't remember how old, a lot of people, 5, 6, 7 years old, first time you sort of trying to catch little tiny fish in small streams and things like that, Sea fishing I did quite a lot when I was in Libya, Singapore. My father was military and I was brought up in different countries in the world, but always around nature, actually. I can still remember sort of things of going in Singapore, before Singapore was a big metropolis, and going on small streams we couldn't actually fish, or we didn't see any fish in them. But I just remember that, like the nature and the jungle and that semi sort of jungle area that we were in. You know what I mean? It's always been. I guess it's always been an important part of my life. I started fly fishing at probably would be about 18 years old actually, and I'm fishing on the river Test, the river Itchen, the side streams of these rivers actually. So I was kind of quite fortunate actually to fish some of the world's most famous trout fishing rivers. I had some of the world's best instructors. I mean, they were the guy that I worked for, Mr. Dermot Wilson. His friends were all like top fly fishermen, and so they were constantly there. And I was watching them. That's how I taught myself, basically, to cast and things like that, just through watching other people. Fly fishing actually, it just changes the whole concept of fishing somehow. Tying your own flies and all of this kind of stuff, you know, it's not like you're using maggots and worms and things like that, you know. Then you have to be interested, you have to have some knowledge of entomology and things like that, you know, knowledge of flies, what they are, nymphs, etc., you know. So you kind of get this, I find it more involved, you know, you get much more involved with your sport, actually, through fly fishing, rather than spinning.
De mon côté, c'est toujours le tâtonnement. De manière diplomatique, on dira une phase d'adaptation. En 2 mots, j'attrape pas de poisson. Norman m'a dit, tu prends les mêmes mouches que chez toi, mais en plus lourdes. J'ai dit, ok, pas de problème, je vais leur présenter du gros. Moi, je veux de l'explosif, je rêve de touches de surface, comme sur les vidéos d'internet.
Where this rock is under the water, there's a fish, on the other side of it.
You missed it?
No, I just saw it come up.
Avec le savoir-vivre d'un gentleman, Norman m'offre un poisson. À moi de jouer. Chaque poste, c'est déjà sortir et marcher avec un bas de ligne de 3,50 m sans se prendre les pieds dedans ou dans n'importe quoi qui traîne. Ensuite, il s'agit de ne pas glisser honteusement dans l'eau glacée, puis trouver une assise et enfin préparer son lancer. J'en suis encore à me demander où est-ce que je vais lancer quand Norman derrière moi est déjà en train de faire un poisson.
Fly fishing is not really common. So in India, it's seen as something boring. It's seen as something very too elitist, I think, because in India there's not much fly fishing gear. In fact, there's no fly fishing shop all over the country, as I know it. There are some people in Calcutta who produce flies. They even give some feathers for fly tying. But there's no fly fishing shop as such. You can't go to some shop in Delhi or even in Tirthan or wherever and say, I want to buy a rod. Forget about it. So everything is imported. Everything you have to look to the US or Europe. And there are no instructors. So that's the other point. There are no fly fishing instructors in India. Nobody's teaching except for Misty. Misty Dillon is probably the only, well, he's almost legendary for fly fishing for massif. And he's the other guy who has really influenced my fly fishing passion.
What is this? This is, I'm trying an artificial fly to fool the fish into thinking this is something to eat. Okay. This is how we do it, from a combination of feathers and stuff like that. And then we make things like this. Okay. Now is the time to start fly fishing in India, you understand? It could actually really take off, you know, if there was the rivers. We can talk about dynamite, we can talk about fish traps, that people set traps to catch fish in the rivers. We can talk about netting, we can talk about poisoning the rivers to kill the fish.
Near where I live, we had a very good trout fishing nullah, you know, and even till last year was good until the kids decided to poison the whole thing, you know, and they killed everything, you know. You cannot find one fish left in it, you know, actually. They use bleach.
We have rivers here which have been designated as for angling only. The problem is that they're so heavily poached, they're so heavily fished by local anglers actually, that, you know, the stocks of fish are pretty poor, actually. You know, this is kind of sad. They must hand out the fishing to under private control, where it could be properly policed. Will there be the rivers in 5 years or 10 years' time? You know, personally, I doubt it.
2 times 2.25 megawatts, so it's 5 megawatts.
Everywhere there are plans for a hydro project. There's one here you can go and see it, it's in operation. But there's going to be another hydro project beyond that one as well. Some years ago, when the river Tirtan, actually, which is where I fish a lot, they were having hydro projects on there also. And we put together kind of a packet of projects, you know, we put them together. We had like a half-an-hour video presentation we actually sent to the Chief Minister in Himalaya Pradesh, and he cancelled all of the projects in this valley. So that was something, I forget how many projects were cancelled. It was quite a little victory for us. Now it's a new party in power, and now the people are applying again to, and this guy is all cement factories, and you know, he likes cement factories and he likes all hydro projects.
It would be nice to think that the government could do something about it, but they're not really that interested. Even the guys in the fisheries department, I know they don't really care. They don't really check the local fishermen and things like that, because they really can't. Because they have to live here as well, you understand? And when a fisheries guy posted here, he has to live here as well. So if he makes too much problem for the locals, he can get a problem. They'll beat him up, you know what I mean? I'm serious. So, you know, I've seen them even like one local boy here, have an old license and just change the date. And with the fisheries guy, he gave him the pen to change the date so that he had looked like he had a license, but because the license was an old one, out of date and things like that. You know? The majority of anglers here, they're out to catch the fish and to keep their fish and to eat their fish. The concept of catching the fish and putting them back, they really can't understand. Many of them really can't understand it. I've actually had people get angry with me. I tend not to kill the bigger fish, I put the bigger fish back now. I wasn't like that, I used to keep all the big fish. You know, when I came, you have to understand, I mean, I was fishing in the 70s where on the tests and Yichin, you were obliged to keep the fish. You were not, you know, they weren't catch and release. There was no such thing, nobody even heard of catch and release back then. This was only this American idea that sort of started to come from the States, I think, from Americans slowly. Now is pretty much, you can say it's pretty much getting worldwide.
They're going to be there for a while. They can deal with each other. Oh man, look at this. It's just non-stop goat. Oh yeah. Goaty goat. River's down there. Mutton biryani. So, should we stop here? We can stop and have a look at it.
We will make efforts so that we can continue to fish. We will bypass the hydro projects. We will go beyond the hydro projects. We've already done this already. You know, it's not something we've already done this. We've bypassed hydro. We've taken fish from below and we stop, you know, ourselves above the hydro projects. You understand? To preserve our fishing, because you know, I mean, we want to try and keep some fishing alive here. The only people that have that kind of, you know, commitment to that would be our fishermen. We're actually fishermen themselves. You know, we are the only people that can actually give the impetus to, you know, to actually preserve some of the fishing. You know, we'll lose some. Everywhere in the world it's happening. You understand? We're not alone in that. You know, but we should preserve some of it at least. The devil is a fishing addict. You know, he has a few things in his life. He's paragliding, which he's very passionate about and very good actually. If you ever watched Devil Fly, he's really a top pilot in the world class. But he's got the fishing bug. About converting him to a true fly fisherman, and secondly, not having the desire to take back the dead fish to feed other people.
Grasshopper, direct, first cast.
De Norman, j'ai appris surtout sur la pêche. Si on est ensemble, ou on est en train de pêcher ensemble, ou on est en train de parler de la pêche ensemble. Lui, il pêche très différemment que les locaux ici. Les locaux ici, c'est pas trop de finesse. Lui, il est assez fin, c'est un pêcheur à la mouche, il pêche à la mouche. Du coup, les côtés comme aller se cacher, aller tranquillement à la rivière, tout ça, les locaux ils font pas. Et ici, le loco il va là avec une chemise orange, et il met son truc et allez, il essaie, tu vois. Moi, ça fait toute ma vie que je connais Norman. À la base, c'est un ami à mes parents. Moi, je commençais à passer plus de temps avec Norman quand je commençais à pêcher. Du coup, il m'amenait souvent avec lui, il m'expliquait plein de trucs, il m'a appris plein de trucs. Et après, j'aime bien sa compagnie aussi. Tu vois, c'est facile de passer du temps avec Norman.
I thought I saw one actually there. I was actually... And I thought
pool, you know where I was telling you? I was fishing it, and my thing got stuck. And then I saw a nice, kilo plus, voila, under the rock. Big 2 kinds of grasshoppers. Need about half a dozen of them. Yeah, you stop in a grassy field and get a bottle full. I haven't tried over there yet. Give it a go. You give it a go. I gotta go and look for a grasshopper now.
This is the disadvantage. Just actually looking for grasshoppers, which is fishes.
Grasshoppers, hard work, man. They're difficult to catch. Bon, je m'appelle Débarqué, j'ai 30 ans. Ma mère est italienne, mon père il était indien. Je suis né ici à Manali et j'ai grandi ici. Je suis allé à l'école ici et je suis resté ici plus ou moins jusqu'à l'âge de 18 ans. Et après, j'ai bougé un peu partout. Mon mode de pêche préféré, c'est au toc, hein, parce que c'est ça que je connais le mieux. Avant, on mettait toujours un nymphe vivant qu'on trouvait, mais là, de temps en temps, quand j'ai une mouche, je mets une mouche et après, j'ai rien à la cuillère. J'ai travaillé dans le trekking et les groupes de vélo et tout, et j'ai habité plus en Inde. Et là, ça fait 4-5 ans que j'ai arrêté de faire des treks et je fais que du parapente. Parce que le parapente, j'en fais beaucoup, tu vois. J'en fais comme travail, j'en fais comme sport professionnel. Cette année, là, je vais faire le championnat du monde. On est 2, 3, mais je suis plus ou moins l'équipe nationale.
Stiamo facendo la prima transizione, andiamo dove c'è il sole dietro, sulla cresta dietro.
You always remember your first time that you actually leave the ground, you understand? It is an incredible sensation. You're flying, suddenly you're in the air and you're flying. And I remember exactly, and I landed in the field and I put the paraglider back in put the paraglider so it didn't have a bag flat, and I threw it back over my shoulder and I ran up the hill to do it again.
C'est une sensation de liberté. Après, c'est une sensation de liberté trois-dimensionnelle parce que tu vois le vent derrière, t'es vraiment libre, tu vois. Et après, c'est une belle sensation de glisse aussi et d'utiliser la nature comme les thermiques et le vent pour monter, faire de la distance, pour voyager aussi. J'ai des amis qui ont fait d'ici jusqu'au Népal, tu vois, en bivouac. Ils volent la journée, ils campent la nuit, ils volent le lendemain et tu peux voyager, tu peux faire plein de trucs. C'est dur à dire dans des mots la sensation de parapente, il faut essayer.
I guess we've all must have had these dreams of flying when you were a kid, and you dream of like flying, whatever you did, wave, flap your arms or whatever, and and so suddenly to find that you can actually do it.
Pour moi, là, les dernières années, là, à ce moment-là, si tu me demandes une journée, si je veux aller pêcher ou je veux aller voler, je vais plutôt pêcher. Tu vas au bord de la rivière, il n'y a personne, c'est vraiment joli. Et c'est la tranquillité, et aussi quand je vais pêcher, je suis assez concentré sur la pêche. Et du coup, ça te met, comme moi je fais beaucoup de parapente, c'est un peu similaire, tu vois, c'est un truc que tu fais un peu tout seul, et tu es vraiment dans ton truc, et la journée, ça te passe sans te rendre compte, et après, bien sûr, l'adrénaline, quand tu chopes un gros poisson, traiter comme ça, c'est bon.
I can't do anything from there.
When I fish on my own, I've got no other distractions, you understand? It doesn't mean that I always like to, I don't like fishing with other people, because I do, but I'm much more liable to sit and watch you fish and then fish myself, do you understand? I mean, that is also part of my because I fish these rivers often so much and things like that, but when someone comes, especially if they're new, I want them to catch fish, I want them to enjoy the rivers like I enjoy the rivers, you understand?
J'avais lâché mes streamers et autres fantasmes de souris pour pêcher moi aussi avec de grosses nymphes plombées. Quand on y pense, c'est vraiment comme jouer de la harpe dans un groupe de rock. Pêcher de manière si délicate dans des rivières monstrueuses. Je gardais le contact à m'en faire des tendinites. Et puis, alors que j'étais sur le point de relancer, voilà qu'en fait je ferre un poisson. Norman me souffle la solution. Inutile de vouloir remonter le poisson, mais plutôt l'accompagner à la faveur d'un endroit où l'échouer. Avec la force du courant, les truites himalayennes ont développé de grandes nageoires, qu'elles utilisent pour faire pression, rendant de plus en plus incertain le combat titanesque du faible nylon contre les flots pachydermiques.
My pleasure is just in catching the fish and seeing the fish, because trout, they are very beautiful. And when you fish around here, they come in all shapes and sizes and colors.
Nice fish.
You know, they can be gold and they can be silver.
Tu regardes Norman, il a quel âge? Il a 57 ans, 58 ans, tu dirais pas. Il n'a pas fait une vie de stress, ils ont fait une belle vie. Après, il y en a certains qui ils ont abusé un peu trop, ils sont plus là. Et celui-là qui sont restés raisonnables, pas besoin de beaucoup pour survivre ici. C'est un joli endroit et ils font qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent et ils sont tranquilles. Du coup, c'est pas mal comme mode de vie, je trouve.
I love to fish, you know, but I love to fish here. Maybe even more so than I should continue to fish the test and the itchin and something like that. You understand? I mean, these rivers, beautiful as they are, you understand? I mean, no, I give me these rivers any day, really. I'll swap them for these rivers any day. हाँ जी हाँ तुम्हारे पानी में मछली है कि नहीं है?
मछली?
हाँ जी
मछली कम ही होगा।
कम होगा।
Pour continuer à pêcher de beaux poissons, l'Anglais doit s'enfoncer toujours plus profond dans l'Himalaya. Comme il y a 35 ans, il faut à nouveau refaire la route. À nouveau se gorger d'espoir, partir à la rencontre de lieux isolés. Pour les truites, ce sera loin des villages, de la pression de pêche, des braconniers, des câbles électriques, des ouvriers et leurs bâtons de dynamite.
You're away from everything and you're away from many cares and worries and you're concentrating on what you're doing. You've got to watch your foot, watch your footing sometimes. And if you take a little slip, you can be dead. And this is just how it is, So, it's absorbing. I love the challenge of it. It's the nature. The nature here is so powerful. And there you are, involved. You're completely involved in it. You understand? You're part of it for that time you're on the river.
Exploration à travers les champs de patates. Ou allons-nous? Oui, le chemin de la truite.
The things that scratch and, all the massive plants that bite you and scratch you and things like that. Everything there. You understand? You're no longer just sort of a silent observer. But you're physically involved with it, and that's all of it. It's actually a very fulfilling experience, you understand? I mean, fishing is really, I love it.
Our Guruji is Norman. The reason why he's called a Guruji is because he really taught us all the tricks in the bag. He taught us how and where to cast, how to handle the fish, how to approach the river, how to be stealthy. All the techniques, he taught us all that.
And most people that I take along, even sometimes non-fishing people, they totally understand my facet, my love of what I do, of where I am, and appreciate it. People say, oh, it's so beautiful here. I said, yeah, sure is. And when I drive around, go in a bus or something like that, I'm still sightseeing like I did 35 years ago, you understand? I'm still looking at the villages, I'm still appreciating the mountains, and I've seen it so many times, but I don't ever tire of it,
Of course, he's a guru, but more than that, he's a friend. Okay? It's something that he's taught us so beautifully that we really enjoy the sport.
What's my favorite river? Whichever one I'm on at the moment, you know what I mean? I can often be spotted with fishing rod in hand, sat on a rock, just looking at where I am.
Jouir de l'instant, s'épanouir dans le présent, c'est le plus pur chemin de la sagesse pour Norman, gravi à son insu grâce à sa passion pour la pêche. Il semble que l'ancien hippie en quête de voyage initiatique ait donc atteint sa destination. Si Norman est un gourou, un maître, peut-être a-t-il tiré une puissance intérieure à s'être construit au cœur de ces montagnes. Mais c'est surtout parce qu'il est aux yeux de tous un homme libre. Or, on imagine qu'à l'époque des hippies, le maître mot liberté était pour chacun, au-delà d'un état d'esprit, une destination à atteindre.